On a humid summer evening in June, the residents of Millfield noticed something strange about the old Baxter House. It had been abandoned for decades, a decrepit relic on the edge of town, swallowed by overgrown ivy and shadowed by gnarled trees. The house had always carried an air of mystery, but tonight there was an unsettling stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. James, a curious teenager with a penchant for urban exploration, decided that tonight was the night he would finally uncover the secrets of the Baxter House. His friends, eager for an adventure, tagged along, their laughter and banter masking a collective unease. The group of 6, armed with flashlights and a bold sense of invincibility, crossed the creaking wooden bridge that led to the house's front door. The air grew colder as they approached, a stark contrast to the sticky warmth of the evening. The front door, barely hanging on its rusted hinges, creaked open with a mere push, revealing a dark, yawning entrance. James led the way, his flashlight beam slicing through the thick darkness, illuminating dust particles that danced in the stale air. Inside, the house seemed to breathe with them, each creak of the floorboards echoing like a heartbeat. The once grand foyer was now a skeletal frame of its former glory, with cobwebs draping from the ceiling like ghostly curtains. The group fanned out, their footsteps tentative, each corner explored with a mix of excitement and dread. "Guys, come check this out," James called from the base of the staircase, his voice unnervingly loud in the otherwise silent house. The others gathered around, their flashlights revealing a faded mural on the wall, depicting a scene that seemed almost alive in the flickering light. "Looks like some kind of ritual," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. The mural showed robed figures standing around a large circular symbol etched into the floor. The figures' faces were hidden, their hands raised as if in supplication to something unseen. As they stared, a sudden noise from upstairs shattered the silence. A soft, rhythmic tapping. Everyone froze, their flashlights darting toward the staircase that spiraled into darkness. "Just the wind," Mark suggested, though his voice lacked conviction. No one moved, the air thick with an unspoken fear. Then, without warning, the tapping grew louder, more insistent, like fingers drumming on wood. James took a deep breath, his curiosity outweighing his fear. "I'll go check it out," he said, his voice steady. The others exchanged worried glances but followed him nonetheless, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. As they climbed the stairs, the tapping ceased, replaced by an oppressive silence that seemed to close in around them. The hallway at the top was narrow, lined with closed doors. James approached the first door, placing his hand on the cold brass knob. He turned it slowly, the door creaking open to reveal a small, dusty room. In the center stood a lone rocking chair, gently swaying as if someone had just left it. "Is anyone there?" James called out, his voice barely above a whisper. The chair continued to rock, and for a moment, it seemed as though the room itself was holding its breath. Then, from the shadows in the corner, a low, rasping whisper filled the room, sending chills down their spines. "You shouldn't have come here." James's flashlight flickered, the beam dimming as if drained by an unseen force. Panic set in, and he turned to run, but the door slammed shut with a force that shook the walls. The whispering grew louder, a cacophony of voices blending into a single chilling phrase, "Leave while you can." The group huddled together, their hearts pounding in unison. The temperature plummeted, their breath visible in the cold air. James fumbled for the doorknob, his hands shaking. Finally, with a desperate pull, the door flew open and they stumbled into the hallway, gasping for breath. Without a word, they fled down the stairs, the house groaning around them as if it were alive, trying to trap them within its decaying walls. They burst through the front door, the night air warm and suffocating compared to the chilling grip of the house. Outside, they stopped to catch their breath, their hearts still racing. The Baxter House loomed behind them, silent once more, its secrets untouched and its whispers echoing in their minds. None of them spoke as they made their way back to town, the weight of what they had experienced pressing down on them like a dark, unshakable shadow. As they reached the edge of the property, James did a quick head count, his heart dropping to his stomach. "Where's Sarah?" he asked, his voice trembling. The others turned, their faces pale with realization. Panic set in anew as they looked back at the house, its dark windows like eyes staring back at them. Sarah was nowhere to be seen. The oppressive silence of the night seemed to mock their frantic search, and a horrifying thought crept into James's mind. Sarah was still inside. James's pulse quickened, and he took a step back toward the house. But before he could move any further, the front door slammed shut on its own, sealing their friend within. From inside, a faint, chilling whisper echoed through the night air, sending a shiver down their spines. "She belongs to us now." The night hung thick with dread as the group stood frozen at the edge of the Baxter House's property, their minds racing. James's heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the now closed door, his thoughts fixated on Sarah, trapped inside. The oppressive silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of their labored breathing. "We have to go back for her," James insisted, his voice breaking the fearful silence. His friends exchanged worried glances, their faces pale with fear and uncertainty. "We can't just leave her in there," Emily said, her voice trembling but determined. "She's our friend." Mark nodded, clenching his fists. "We'll go in, find her, and get out, quickly." Gathering their courage, they approached the house once more. The air grew colder with each step, as if the house was exuding a malevolent chill. The door, which had slammed shut so forcefully, now seemed to almost beckon them with an eerie stillness. James pushed the door open, and it creaked loudly, the sound echoing through the dark, empty halls. The group stepped inside, their flashlights flickering and casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The temperature dropped noticeably, and their breath became visible in the frigid air. "Sarah!" James called out, his voice echoing through the house. There was no response, only the oppressive silence that seemed to press in from all sides. They moved cautiously through the house, retracing their steps from earlier. The mural on the wall seemed to watch them as they passed, the robed figures almost appearing to shift in the flickering light. The feeling of being watched was palpable, sending shivers down their spines. "Let's check upstairs," Emily suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. As they climbed the staircase, the old wood groaned under their weight, the sound magnified in the silence. The hallway at the top was just as narrow and foreboding as before, lined with closed doors. James led the way, approaching the door to the room with the rocking chair. He hesitated for a moment before slowly turning the knob. The door creaked open, revealing the small, dusty room. The rocking chair was still, as if it had never moved. "Sarah?" James called again, stepping inside. The air in the room was thick, almost suffocating. His flashlight beam danced over the walls, revealing nothing out of the ordinary. A faint sound caught his attention. A soft, almost imperceptible whisper. He turned, his flashlight sweeping across the room, but saw nothing. The whispering grew louder, forming words that sent chills down his spine. "She's with us now." James's heart raced as he backed out of the room, his flashlight flickering wildly. He turned to his friends, panic etched on his face. "We have to find her, now." They continued their search, moving from room to room, their flashlights casting eerie shadows. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the old house seemed amplified, heightening their anxiety. In the last room at the end of the hallway, they found a door slightly ajar. James pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit space. In the center of the room, surrounded by a circle of flickering candles, sat Sarah. Her eyes were closed and she appeared to be in a trance. "Sarah!" Emily cried, rushing to her side. She shook her friend gently, but Sarah did not respond. "We need to get her out of here," Mark said, his voice urgent. As they lifted Sarah, the room seemed to come alive with whispers, a cacophony of voices blending into one ominous chant. The candles flickered violently and a cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the flames. "Go, go, go!" James shouted, leading the way out. They hurried down the stairs, carrying Sarah between them. The house groaned and creaked as if protesting their departure.
What the make you?
They burst through the front door, the warm night air a stark contrast to the chilling cold inside. They didn't stop until they reached the edge of the property, where they gently laid Sarah on the ground. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Sarah, are you okay?" Emily asked, her voice filled with concern. Sarah looked around, confusion and fear in her eyes. I don't remember. I felt like I was dreaming, but I couldn't wake up." "You're safe now," James reassured her, though he couldn't shake the feeling that the house had let them go far too easily. As they made their way back to town, James glanced back one last time. The Baxter house stood silent and dark, its secrets still hidden within its decaying walls. He knew this wasn't the end.